All right, so we're here on Jay Cutler TV. We're at the 2020 Fit Expo LA, which I'm with a man that probably needs no introduction. He's been all over the media lately. This is my second father, Ed Connors. This is the man that actually gave me a career in bodybuilding, and I wanted to bring you on the channel and introduce you to JTV as one of the people that were one of my mentors of bodybuilding. I wanted to give you a voice to tell a little bit about our background and all the years that we've known each other.
Well, I'm proud of you, Jay. I think I was just talking to Bill Geiger, Muscle and Fitness, former editor, and he and I both agree that other than Arnold, you've done the most with your career of any bodybuilder.
It's crazy because Bill Geiger wrote my first article in Muscle and Fitness.
Wow. Well, so he's followed you your whole career.
But this interview could be hours on end, and I don't think it's going to be our last one. But right. I wanted to talk a little bit about, I met you when I was
19.
When I was 19, I think I had just turned 20, but I was actually making my trip to California. I was with Kerry at the time, and we were touring Gold's Gym Venice. We walked a very far distance to go train at the Mecca, and somehow you spotted me out of the crowd and invited me to stay at your place, and you took us out to dinner and invited me to come back, and I got to experience coming back and staying in, what do we call it, Connors Hotel.
Well, Connors Hilton or the Connors Hyatt, whatever. But yeah, when I met you in the gym and I asked where you were staying, you mentioned some hotel on Pico, which I think even now isn't a great place to stay. So I was kind of concerned because, LA was a lot more crime back in that era. Venice, when Pete and Tim and I bought Gold's Gym, it was in Santa Monica. We moved it back to Venice in '82, but that was gangland. There were two gangs fighting each other. It was dangerous area.
I didn't even know that until recent media. Then you're talking about that. I remember Chris Aceto knew you because he worked at your gym when he was younger. So I knew who Ed Connors was prior to going out there. And it's just funny because you were so aware of what was going on in the gym. And how was that?
Well, because of my house guests. In other words, I would go home at night at 7 or so, 8, and said, who wants to go to dinner? And and I figured my time back then was worth about $290 an hour. So if I'd gone to the store, bought dinner, prepared it, and cleaned up, it'd be a $1,000 meal. So I'd grab 2 or 3, whoever was staying at the house, and we'd all go to dinner, and I would learn about what was going on in the gym, about the equipment, what they saw, the ambiance, everything. So that they were my scouts, my eyes and ears.
But your offices were next door.
Right.
So I actually went to the gym when I was, like I said, 20 years old, and I got to see Flex Wheeler and all these guys train, which was amazing to me. But when you came up to me in the gym, you were able to spot out new faces in the gym,
right.
And you were always looking for the next big thing. And I think so many people owe success to the Ed Connors vision of what they could have been. I remember meeting Cena when he worked there. The list goes on.
Actually,
and on.
yeah, John. People say, Ed, how do you find these people? And they just seem to have an aura about them. And with John Cena, I just saw him in the gym, and Mark Wahlberg and Marky Mark at the time, and Matt Damon were training in the gym, and he reminded me of a Matt Damon with muscles. And ironically, he stayed at my house in '99 for 5 months. You and Lee Priest were his two biggest heroes because he's from Massachusetts.
I remember when I met him in the parking lot, you introduced me, and he's like, man, I'm a big fan.
Well, that's the truth. John is not a bullshitter. And he said, in fact, I recently reconnected him with Lee Priest in Australia. Lee was my house. Lee was stranded in LA for 5 months thanks to Lou Zwick. He stayed at my house. And
that's when I came to
93. He came right after him. Yeah. No, in fact, I'm working on my book right now, and
we got the Connors book. This could be a land, a treasure, the treasure chest right here.
Here's a list of my house guests. I'm up to 475 after 40 years.
You remember all these people?
Well, actually, I don't. I'm actually.
So people are going to be left out.
No, I hope probably. But I just saw Eddie Robinson up the road there. He worked in a booth, and he was a house guest at 19.
Eddie Robinson was one of my heroes.
Yeah, Eddie. Eddie's a real Floridian. He didn't like LA. Some people just don't like it. It's not for everybody. But yeah, Eddie's had a great 9-year career with Weider. No, it was fun.
He was an amazing teenage bodybuilder.
Yeah, very. Yeah, I met a lot of people at 19 back in the day. You were close, but Paul DeMeo. Yeah.
I remember when Lee Priest.
He turned 21.
Lee was out there when I was there, and I remember you telling me about, I got this guy from Australia, and I couldn't believe the size of Lee. I still tell people to this day, like, Lee Priest was the biggest guy I've ever seen, like, height weight ratio. He could barely walk, it seemed like, in the gym.
And that's why I say he's probably the greatest bodybuilder I've ever seen, because at age 20, well, he turned 21 in my house, and who looks like that at age 21? He was 215 pounds at 5'3", with 21.5-inch arms.
You think it's hard to get impressed these days with the new up-and-coming bodybuilders? Have you seen anyone like a Lee Priest level, or any of the younger generation?
No.
Stuff, right? Even worldwide.
I've seen some big guys. I just a couple months ago I introduced Ilya Yefimchik.
He came by my booth today.
I met him online on September 9th, and then on November 12th I'm in the office as a 5% with him, and they hired him. But he's not. I mean, he's a bodybuilder, but he's not a competitive bodybuilder.
I met him in Prague last year.
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah. So anyway, I said, my God, you belong here in America. And that was his dream. I really, I feel like I've been like, some people call me the Wizard of Oz of bodybuilding.
You like the Godfather.
Well, but I give, like Wizard of Oz gave people a heart or brains or a badge of courage. I think most people I gave a level of confidence to. Most bodybuilders that are good don't understand how good they are. They lack confidence.
You know what's crazy though is, like, we talk about, like, iconic people in bodybuilding, and they say, like, Joe Weider's, like, he's the guy who originated bodybuilding, but I put your, like, what you did for a lot of us, like, up there. Like, you gave us the opportunity, and I remember you telling me, I want to introduce you to Joe Weider. You had those connections where you would get people in Joe Weider's office. You got Lee Priest in there, I think, for the first time.
Actually, the day I met Lee Priest, I took him back. Irv Gelb introduced me to him. He was in the gym shooting. And I took Lee back into our studio, took us some Polaroids, FedExed him to Weider, and 2 days later we were having lunch with Joe Weider. But you know how it is at Weiderland, it took them 5 months to get the contract, the money going. But yeah, no, I introduced a lot of people to Joe, and Joe wouldn't come down to Venice. He liked the valley, he liked living in Hancock Park. But he helped. It was synergy. I mean, we were all part of building that whole fitness world in Southern California.
But you had so many people that migrated to Gold's Gym back then, and I don't see as many real mainstream celebrities in the gym as much.
Think about it. I'm working in a new gym chain, and I was just telling one of the investors, imagine 50 years ago, Arnold had to go from Graz, Austria to Gold's Gym Venice to get a workout in a 4,200 square foot gym. Now, any mile in urban America, you find a dozen choices. I mean, it's all different.
And the women are in the gym now, too.
Yeah, we pioneered co-ed fitness. In fact, Lisa Lyons, who Pete Grimkowski was dating, really started women's bodybuilding. Cory Everson was one of my first house guests. She was an interior designer, she knew I was an architect, so she sent me a message saying, Ed, can you help me get a job? And I said, sure, and she came out with her husband, Jeff. I introduced Jeff to Joe Weider, and Joe hired him on the spot to be editor of Muscle Fitness. And Cory won the Miss Olympia 6 times. She had the bodybuilding career he wanted, but she was probably the greatest Miss Olympia. I mean, it kind of, I hate to say it went downhill from there, but it's not the same. I mean, women's bodybuilding is just, it's gotten too extreme.
Well, every woman bodybuilder pretty much had an endorsement deal with Weider back in the day.
Right. Well, yeah, the magazines were it. And now, I mean, the magazines are dying or dead.
And talk about the clothing branding with the gym a little bit. How important was that to the branding of Gold's Gym?
Well, I joke with people that we were really a clothing company masquerading as a gym chain back then. We were doing more business. I mean, a T-shirt costs $2.25 to buy and screen. We sold it to our gym owners for $4.50, and they sold it for $9.95. And ironically, it's cheaper now to get a good T-shirt than it was back then. we licensed it out because we couldn't keep up with demand. But no, it's we were a clothing company, but more people have worn the shirt than trained in the gyms.
You still frequent Gold's Gym Mecca at all?
Well, I'm actually banned from the gym. I was in the pro shop and raised a big stink because, and I just checked the Gold's Gym up here in downtown LA.
I went there yesterday.
Well, they're not screening the information on the back of the shirt. They're still doing these tags, which you all hate. You cut yours out, I'll bet, right away. So, I mean, I said, how can you be doing this, selling a shirt for $20, and you're not, but for 25, another 15 cents, you could screen the information. Any class company does that now. Nobody does tags anymore because they scratch. So they raised the stink, and anyway, I don't care.
You had many Gold's Gyms though in your lifespan. How many Gold's Gyms did you own at one time?
I owned 19 at one time, but I was involved in 37.
And you had a lot of people that actually invested in Gold's Gym back in the day.
Yeah, some of my former partners have done incredibly well. More than, Jerry McCall, who owns the 6 Gold's Gyms I was involved with in the Bay Area. He lives next door to Larry Ellison in Mountain View, California. So no, we made a lot of millionaires. Angel and Willie Bonos, who have the Gold's Gyms here, I think they have 25 gyms.
Now, talk a little bit about the talent that came. Did you think it was necessary back in the day for a lot of these bodybuilders, like Rich Gaspari moved out from the East Coast, Lee Haney was training there. They had the muscle camps going on at a certain point too. How important was it to be in California, and how much now you think the media has changed the aspect of where you need to be to have the best success? Do you think it was just because of the Weider magazines, or was it you needed to be around like the aura of these guys training and learning to process to be better bodybuilders?
I think it was the media, the whole environment, because I met Rich Gaspari when he was 19, and he was competing in San Jose. And I said, Rich, if you competed one weight class down, you'd probably win and turn pro, and he did. I hired him for one of my gyms. He worked the Gold's Gym in Reseda, which was where he met Lee Haney, and he ended up living with Lee. I don't think Lee realized what he was getting involved with. But no, back then, the magazines were important, and getting, people would come in the gym and hire these guys for guest posing. That was a big, you went on you guest posed 47 times weekends a year, right?
Yeah, I guest pose a lot.
For how many that's
I'm still doing appearances now. I just don't take my clothes off anymore.
Yeah, but see, that was you met people in the gym that gave you, that's where you made connections.
It was all the people, my relationships that made me the most successful.
Right, yeah, and that's where you would make them in Gold's Gym Venice, because it's things are going to happen. I mean, it wouldn't happen nowadays. It's different because of social media.
But you travel around the world still. I run into people all around the world, and they said, do you know a guy named Ed Connors? And I always say this is a guy that basically kickstarted my career.
Well, you learn a lot traveling. I mean, I don't think many Americans have been to FIBO in Germany, but it makes this look like nothing. I mean, 200. This is probably 50,000 people here these 2 days. The FIBO in Cologne.
That's a huge event.
We'll have 200,000 over 4 days. So you can learn a lot traveling. In fact, that's where I got the idea for my new gym chain, was in Germany.
And what's your favorite place to visit at this point?
Bali.
Why?
It's a paradise. It's incredible. The people are friendly. It's just a delightful place. It's a third world country, but without poverty.
You retired what year from the Gold's Gym franchise?
2004.
And did you think you were going to retire for good at that point?
No.
I don't think you're ever going to retire.
No.
Why?
I love being around young people. I don't like people my own age. I'm 75, and people my age bore me to death.
You look the same for the past 30 years, Ed. What's the secret?
Rogaine foam.
Yeah. I was telling Dave, we just did a video and we shot outside the Connors Hilton, which is the old house.
Right.
You told me you bought that home for $500,000, I think.
Okay. It's for sale now for $6.
Oh, it's for sale for $6. We were trying to guess the price.
I think Zillow has it at $6.
Crazy how much the real estate went up, right?
Yeah, I would have actually, if I'd kept all 4 homes I had in Venice, I would have made more money from them than selling the gym. So that's California real estate.
And you know, I was saying I used to ride a bike from your house and they stole my bike. You remember they stole my bicycle?
Yeah,
He told me.
The only
Scold me.
crime. Yeah, there were. I had 6 bikes stolen out of my house. That's the only crime, other than Mike Matarazzo got mugged in front of my first house in Venice, but he beat up the 3 guys that jumped him. So other than that, that's the only crime I've ever seen. And because I would tell you to go to bed at 10, right?
I was pretty methodical about how I did it.
I appreciated you telling the other house guests not to put wet towels on the leather chairs and to make
I
your
got
bed.
yelled at for doing it.
And to make your beds, yeah, because I was in the Army, so a lot of these guys weren't in the Army. And if you've done nothing else, at least you've made your bed in the morning, right?
And you're a big movie buff. I used to say that every night you wanted to go see a different movie. We used to go to 3rd Street Promenade. You still?
Yeah, I've never rented a movie. I like the big screen experience, but this has been a horrible year for movies.
I agree.
Yeah, the worst year. I mean, I barely seen one movie a month, but no. But I love, and it's a great way to. I mean, in fact, in working on my book, I find most of my house guests were influenced by the superheroes, and they wanted to be. In fact, most of the guys. The most common occupation of my former house guests, as I'm now finding going through all this, is policeman or fireman. So they want to be a real-life superhero.
Yeah, I went to school for criminal justice. I want to be a cop.
Exactly, yeah. So you prove the point. So that's, the movies make an incredible impression on us.
I got to see Jean-Claude Van Damme, who was my hero, in the gym, was it 2 weeks ago, I think?
He was living in a van in Gold's Gym parking lot. In fact, that's why I wanted to discover the next Arnold, because I mean, I saw Kevin Sorbo was pretty much homeless, and I mean, so many other houses. John Cena was sleeping in his car when I met him. I mean, it's just, and now I'm sure more are sleeping in their car because it's so expensive. So you could change a life just by giving somebody a room and maybe a little help with food or supplements, right?
There's so many more questions I can ask you, but I just want to ask you, what is your most memorable time of your lifespan involved in the bodybuilding scene? What do you think the year range would be, or is it very broad?
It's pretty broad. I mean, there were just, sitting in the auditorium with Mike Matarazzo's parents and his sister when he won
his pro card.
Yeah, that was,
He came to Venice he came out just. Tell us a little bit about that background, because he came out of nowhere.
Actually, he was another person who was stranded thanks to Louis Wick, and he came in my office. He said, "Ed, Mr. Connors, Paul DeMeo told me if I ever had a problem, I should come see you." And I said, and I at the time I was giving complimentary memberships to college football players, and I thought he was wearing his shoulder pads.
That's how big he was.
And I said, you don't need to come in here wearing your outfit. And he said, I'm not wearing shoulder pads. And I said, well, take off your shirt. And he flexed his arms, and they were 21-inch biceps, which 20 inches is a huge hurdle.
Yeah.
And I said, you're not leaving here till you turn pro. And he said, well, you better talk to my mom and dad. So I flew back to Boston. I had this incredible Italian dinner with him and his mom and dad and sister and her fiance. And I convinced him to let him come out. And he turned pro 5 months later.
What was the aura in the gym at that time? What do people take when this new guy just popped on the scene like this and started training with those crazy calves and those crazy arms?
Well, people would always say, oh, God, Ed, what do you got now for us?
He was impressive.
Yeah.
And he started guest posing, and he really set the standard. He took advantage of being who he was.
Well, he had no sense of rhythm. So I said, Mike, don't try and pose to music. Just jump down in the audience.
Stick your tongue out.
And show them how big you are next to regular people, and it worked. He was you were very popular, Gunther, Mike Matarazzo, yeah.
What do you think? Who has the biggest success story at a Gold's Gym Venice that you can? There's probably a lot, but would you name a couple?
Well, I would say you.
On bodybuilding side, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and Cena's one of the biggest wrestling.
Yeah. Ultimate Warrior was a.
What was Cena's job at the gym when I met him?
Well, he was selling supplements. When I met him, he was bald, and I said, you got to grow hair if you're going to get into wrestling. So he grew this 4-inch wide mohawk, dyed blonde, and people would love to come and rub his head.
He had a pretty impressive physique, though. Did he want to be a pro bodybuilder?
At some level, yeah, I think he did. He's probably financially the most successful, but Ultimate Warrior was another one. He stayed at my house. I'd formed a Gold Gym wrestling team, 4 guys, and when the big guy dropped out, I called Jim back in Atlanta. He'd gone back. He'd come in 6th in a contest, and I said, "You want to wrestle?" And he said, "Well, I'm not doing anything else." So he became partners with Steve Borden, my manager from Gold Gym in Reseda. Steve became Sting, and he became the Ultimate Warrior. I bought them the first makeup kits at a makeup store, a costume store just down the street from that motel you stayed in. It's still in business.
Really?
Yeah.
For Sting's face?
Yeah, because back in the day, they were promoting heels, bad guys. I said, "You guys need to cover your good looks." So they both put on the paint, and they kept it all their careers. But besides you and Lee Priest, John Cena was inspired by the Ultimate Warrior. So I told the Warrior 3 days before he died, because he was going to give the speech at the induction at the Hall of Fame in WWE. I said, you were the one that inspired Cena, and Jim mentioned me and Cena in his award speech, and then he died. I think it was Monday.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, but and there's an example where he died too young. But think of how many lives he influenced, he changed. And look at how many lives Cena is affecting, or you have affected. You don't realize the power you have.
Well, that's what I come to these expos, and it's like, I don't realize my achievements until people point them out to me, because we're just living in it, right? But listen, it's there's so much more I could talk to you about, but I don't want to go on and on and on.
I'm losing my voice.
Well, it's okay. You were a major part of my success story, and I wanted to post something up and just be able to say thank you on film, because I don't think I would have had the opportunity. I came to California on that first trip on a mistake in the Boston Globe. It was a misprint, and Kerry and I were able to book our tickets for round trip for $99. And I was staying in a shithole hotel. You dragged me out of there, you put me in your place, and you took me under your wing a little bit, and you told me, listen, you can make this a career. It wasn't until I walked into Gold's Gym Venice when I was on that trip, when I met you, the USA, when Cormier won that year, that I realized I wanted to be a professional bodybuilder. Like, that's when I said, okay, this is me. And I went to California. I ended up moving to Orange County, and then, of course, moved to Vegas and got into the whole bodybuilding arena, and I was successful at it. I came out and competed at the Tournament of Champions, if you remember, in '95. I picked a show in California to be closer. Irvin took all the pictures, and you were there. You were there at my wedding when I got married. I mean, there were a lot of special occasions that you supported me on.
Yeah, I remember the wedding, because I think
you were laughing at the wedding.
Well, no, I was only one of 2 guests. You and Kerry hadn't arranged for a reception, and I said, well, I know the Treasure Island. There's a Chinese restaurant that has tables for 12, so 11 of us went over there.
Ed took us out for our reception, so
we had fortune cookies for dessert. Open this up and see what it says.
Hold this microphone. You're gonna see what my fortune is. What do you think it is?
It's the year of the rat. It chained like a gym rat.
Am I supposed to say it? Is it supposed to be? You're thinking about posting on social media. I love the Fit Expo. Totally fixed for the Fit Expo. But listen, Ed, I just wanted to take this opportunity. We want to have you back on. I'd love to do a sit down and talk a little bit deeper into like the years and years. But you were iconic in bodybuilding, iconic for so many people's careers. And we just wanted to show our appreciation and give you a little airtime and be able to tell your story a little bit.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So we want to wish you the best in your newest venture.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to your book. I hope you talk very highly of me in your book.
Yeah.
And let's continue.
I'll be in Vegas on Thursday for a week.
Well, let's get up.
Yeah, okay.
So for JTV, Ed Connors, the iconic Ed Connors, we're out.
Happy New Year, everyone. Get fit.